Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about the learning styles that we use in order to learn something. Now, before we learn how to learn, we should be aware of the learning style which we use to learn various things. Of course, we use a lot of different learning styles, like we learn through visuals, we learn through auditory, we learn by writing, we learn by teaching other people. Then sometimes we also learn by hearing other people through our different senses, etc. So our learning styles are different from each other, and it depends on various needs and the kind of environment in which we are put to. Supposing if we are put into an environment which focuses on teaching and learning based on visuals, okay, so we develop and we inculcate that learning style. Say for example, the visual sense in a child is a very prominent sense right from the very beginning. Since the child takes birth, the child learns a lot through his or her visual sense. So his visual sense becomes very strong. Okay, and gradually he or she polishes that visual sense. So by birth, a child is a visual learner. He or she learns through his or her visual senses. But then when we grow, and as and when the demand of knowledge or the rigor of knowledge increases, we use different learning styles. Now, let's talk about those different learning styles that we use. Number one is the visual style, which I have already talked about and said that right from the very beginning, right from the birth itself, the child learns through visual senses. So it is the visual sense when it comes to a student's teaching and learning style. The student uses graphs and flashcards. Say for example, to memorize or to learn a lot of things, we convert the words and sentences into, or information into, graphs and chart formats, using maybe different colors which will be very appealing for our visual sense. Next is the auditory style of learning. Now auditory is which depends on our auditory organs, that means our hearing sense. Now those who are auditory learners, remember, those who are auditory learners, their hearing sense is not just a hearing sense, but it is when they hear, they just not hear, they listen to things. Now hearing and listening are two different things. When we hear, we are not paying attention to it, but when we listen to anything, we pay attention to it, and our auditory organs carry the messages to our brain, where the message is unfolded, decoded, and we try to understand it. Okay, so auditory learners are always attentive to something that they hear, and they try to understand it, they try to grab it with full attention, and they don't usually like a lot of noise when they are hearing to anything. Okay, so they dislike a noisy place, they want a silent place when they are listening to someone. Next is the physical sense. Now physical sense is a learning style wherein people learn through experimenting or experiencing something. When they experience something, then they tend to learn those things, like through experiments, etc. Now next is verbal learners, who use a certain language pattern when they write something or when they present something using a certain language in written or oral form, they learn better. Next is logical. Some students are logical learners by nature, that they tend to create links and patterns between what they are learning, and they try to develop those connections in order to remember a lot of information and knowledge. Next style is a social learner. Some students, they are able to learn only when they are put to a group situation. Okay, so they learn better while discussing with different partners, or when they discuss things in different group. They learn through various viewpoints, etc. The next learner is a solitary learner who learns individually and not in a group. So these are different learning styles. Now the most common styles which we will be talking about and discussing about and learning the techniques will be these four learning styles, which are the major learning styles, which is the visual style, auditory style, reading and writing style, and kinesthetic style, which is the sense of touch, or when the physical style of learning, when we do experiments, when we conduct experiments, or when we physically experience something, we learn better. So now when we talk about the visual learners, how will the students benefit through visual learning? Now students who are visual learners, right, they tend to use a lot of videos, presentations, diagrams, etc. So I suggest these students who are, or who identify themselves as visual learners, that they should always sit with something through which they will convert their knowledge and information into notes which are visual by nature, using a lot of diagrams, flowcharts, etc., using various colors, various color schemes, right? Or they can use a lot of presentations, because when they view things, when they visualize things, their memory is working to a greater extent to retain it in the long term memory. Okay, so those who are visual learners, they can conduct certain experiments, which I am going to put forth in the description box, and I will also put certain links through which you can find out, you can take those quizzes and you can find out whether you are a visual learner or no. So first of all, I am going to focus on visual learners, visual learning. So visual learners, as I have already told you, are the learners who learn through visuals. Specifically, their visual sense is very strong. So how will you find out if you are a visual learner? Okay, what will be the symptoms in you, or what will be the things in you, features, characteristic traits in you, that will tell you that you are a visual learner and you have a stronger visual sense as compared to other learning patterns? So number one, you are always neat, clean and organized. That means any person who is a visual learner by nature, who learns through visuals nicely and is more productive through visual learning, will always remain very neat and clean, will focus on neatness, cleanliness, and will remain organized. The second thing, through which you can identify a visual learner is, you close your eyes to visualize or remember things. That means whenever you want to remember anything, you just close your eyes and you try to remember or memorize anything through creating visuals in your memory, because at that time your that part of the brain which works on senses or which creates images is more active as compared to other parts of your brain. Third one, when you are bored of something, of doing some activity, you just search for something to watch. Either you watch television, or you just maybe go out of the house to have a look at the scenic beauty. You like to roam around in the garden, visualizing the flowers and the greenery, etc. So you will look for things to visualize to relax yourself. The third pattern of identifying yourself as a visual learner is you take great interest in information, say for example in charts, pictures, or in tabular formats. Even if, say for example, you read a newspaper, you specifically not just go to the news headlines, but your eyes looks for the images in the newspaper, and you specifically turn to a specific part of the newspaper which has maximum images or information given in tabular formats. And same you do with books or magazines, etc. The next one is you remember somebody's face easily rather than the name of any person. Say for example, you meet a certain person and maybe for the first time. So if you will meet that person again, your sense of remembrance will be more in terms of remembering the face of that person, okay, rather than the name of that person. The next one, you picture the words in your mind whenever you hear something. जब भी आप किसी को सुनते हैं, whenever you hear something, maybe someone's lecture or someone is talking to you, your mind actually creates pictures of that particular word. Say for example, you hear the word apple, so rather than focusing on the alphabets in the apple, your brain tends to create the image of a red apple in the mind to get that word. Next is you love to read something with images and pictures to a greater extent. That means you choose books, or you love to read books with lots of images, and you get bored easily if any book doesn't have any pictures. And if you go to a bookshop to purchase books in order to read during your leisure time, you pick up books with images along with the words, rather than a book with plain pages and with plain text written in it. You don't prefer such kind of books. Such people, the people who are visual learners by nature, they always face difficulty in spoken directions. That means whenever a person is speaking, you won't get the directions easily from that person. Supposing you want to go to a certain place, you want to reach to a certain place, and if you ask a person to tell you or to describe you or give directions to you, if that is happening verbally, you won't understand, or you will face a lot of difficulty in understanding such directions. So these are the most common patterns through which you can understand if you are और इफ़ योर चाइल्ड इज़ अ विजुअल लर्नर. ओके, अगर आप पेरेंट्स हैं तो आप इन चीज़ों को, इन पॉइंट्स को ऑब्ज़र्व कर सकते हैं अपने चाइल्ड के अंदर. और इफ़ यू आर अ टीचर एंड यू वांट टू नो हाउ मेनी परसेंटेज ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स आर विजुअल लर्नर्स इन योर क्लास, आप एक चार्ट बना सकते हैं, और आप इस चार्ट में हर एक स्टूडेंट को से यू कैन ऑब्ज़र्व फॉर अ मंथ और सो, एंड यहाँ पे आप उसको रेटिंग दे सकते हैं दैट कौन सा बच्चा, विच स्टूडेंट इज़ हैविंग these patterns while learning, is focusing on these points or has these points inbuilt in his or her learning style. So all these points, if these points are there in a certain student or a child or a person, this tells you that that person is a visual learner by nature. That means उस person का visual sense, visual learning sense ज़्यादा strong है. and अगर उसका visual sense ज़्यादा strong है तो what that student needs to do is कि अगर वो स्टूडेंट है तो अगर वो विजुअल पैटर्न को अडॉप्ट करेगा अपनी लर्निंग स्टाइल में, तो उसकी लर्निंग और प्रोडक्टिव हो जाएगी. right, that child will be able to learn better. Now mostly I would say that 65 to 70% of people in this world are visual learners. तो अगर आप एक विजुअल लर्नर हैं राइट तो मैं अपने आने वाले वीडियोस में डिस्कस करूँगी कि एक विजुअल लर्नर के लिए बेस्ट लर्निंग टेक्निक्स कौन कौन सी हैं इफ़ यू आर अ स्टूडेंट स्पेसिफिकली. So the next upcoming video or my vlog will be very important for you, because I'm going to come up with techniques that will tell you, if you are a visual learner, what kind of techniques will be more productive for you, will make your learning more productive. So this is all in this vlog. I have discussed today types of learners, types of learning patterns, and I have discussed visual learners in detail, how you can find out whether you are a visual learner. Now along with this, in my upcoming vlogs, I will be discussing about the auditory learner. दैट मीन्स अगर आप एक ऑडिटरी लर्नर हैं, अगर आप हियरिंग या लिसनिंग के थ्रू ज़्यादा लर्न कर पाते हैं, तो हाउ विल यू आइडेंटिफाई योर सेल्फ दैट यू आर अ ऑडिटरी learner. So this is all in today's vlog. See you in the next vlogs very soon. So till then, keep learning, stay safe, bye bye.